Call this meeting to order. This is the Holyoke City Council subcommittee known as the Finance Committee. My name is Joe McGivern, Chair of the committee. To my left is Jim Leahy, City Councilor at Large. To my right is Mike Sullivan. To his right is Peter Sullivan, both City Councilors at Large. Tallman. What did I say? Sullivan's gone. Whoa. Joining us in the chambers is our City Councilor of Ward 5, Linda Bacon, and our City Councilor of Ward 2, Terrence Murphy. We have several items this evening. I'm going to ask the committee to hold off for about 15 minutes on item number 1. The mayor, I was told through the mayor's office that he would like to be present for that item this evening as requested. He is currently traveling back from Boston, so as soon as he gets here, we can take up the item. Item number 1, well, we'll talk about it when we take it off the table.
I make a motion to take item number 2 off the table.
Motion made second to move to item number 2. All those in favor of taking off the table?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is an order filed under my name that the City Council order for boiler and window replacements at Kelly Elementary School and window replacements at Sullivan Morgan Elementary Schools approved on April 18th of 2018 be modified to include the removal, purchase, and installation of new AC units in the public school facilities within the City of Holyoke within the original bond number. No change to the amount, which was at that time $13,797,581. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Whitney, you want to step right in? The mayor said he's delaying coming in just for you, so you can get out of here. Appreciate you coming in. I think the council knows we call this affectionately the Bartley Amendment, but any changes that happen within a bond that is out of the scope of the original bond language needs to come back before the City Council for approval. So Whitney, if you could just walk us through it. I think it's self-explanatory, but could you walk us through it?
Absolutely. We are currently engaged with 4 projects with the MSBA. 3 of these are undertaken right now. Morgan School window replacement, Kelly School window replacement, and Sullivan School window replacement. The Kelly School also had a boiler replacement that was completed last summer very successfully. So what you see in front of you, I hope, is a reconciliation of exactly a statement from the project manager who has reconciled the amount of money available through that bid process, and it's individually school by school. Within that document, if you do not have that, I brought some supporting stuff with me. But from there, what happens is that we had attempted during this window replacement project to have the MSBA support replacement of some of the aging air conditioners within the scope, what we believe to be the scope of that work. They had denied that with their initial funding request, and we're very specific about that. In the meantime, we were able to have them remove and replace the wiring that went to these individual components. We have quite a few of these throughout these schools, and they were successfully able to incorporate that into our reimbursement for this project. So that's kind of an encapsulation of where we're at. Morgan School has already undertaken a number of classroom removals and replacements of the air conditioners working within that school at the occupied time right now. Kelly School, we're going to hold off on the actual window replacement because they don't have any swing space for us, a place where they can have kids go temporarily for a day or two while the windows are being replaced. So we're working on the facades of those environments. But in keeping with trying to be a good steward of the buildings, we were either going to put back the old air conditioners, which some of them are 7 to 10 years old, energy inefficient and so forth, and really not in keeping with the investment that the city's making in regards to the new windows, or the possibility of, at this point, having some monies made available within the initial appropriation to go ahead and replace those existing units with new units more energy efficient. So that's it in a nutshell as far as what this is about tonight. I've laid out a summary page, I believe you might have before you, that indicates exactly where we have these needs. And I was hoping that within I have been very diligent to look at each and every air conditioner Some of the new window sizes, the frames, do not fit the existing units, so we have to exactly see what we're gonna get when they're installed. And therefore, I have to match an air conditioner to fit that particular opening. If it's too big, it won't work, so there's no sense in purchasing it. So we're a little bit away from a few air conditioners to see exactly the right size that needs to go into those particular locations.
Councilor Lee.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I will be voting for this tonight. My only recommendation is the fact that these air conditioners are probably really old. Not only are you getting an efficiency with probably electricity, but there probably could be like mold and whatnot. And, you know, we do have a high rate of asthma. So I would like to see new air conditioners, new filters.
It'll be much appreciated within every classroom where we have these.
My last question is the facade. You mentioned the facade. How will it look from the, you know, the street view? Is it going to be much better? Is it going to be?
Kelly School, Sullivan School, Morgan School. Kelly in particular has suffered with a failing facade. It has a black,
Yeah,
it's awful.
it's ugly.
It's gonna look brand new.
Oh, good.
Really, the entire perimeter of the whole building, the main entrance, everything now has been removed from the structure. New plywood's going up, a new type of a siding, if you will, which is quite durable, has been specified and is gonna be installed there. It's a beautiful color. It's really gonna look sharp.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I think it's currently under budget by a good amount. So
Yes.
this fits within the 13 million plus.
Yes.
And do you have I'm not sure if you said it, but you're not sure, or do you have a rough estimate about what it's gonna cost?
Not to exceed 80,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there anything in the original scope that is not gonna be completed or is been amended or changed in terms of what was originally said, the work that would be done?
No, in fact, I was able to incorporate some work into the project that initially the school building authority was hesitant towards supporting, and they did support some things that were even where we needed energy improvements in these schools for air conditioning in this particular regard, and they were able to support that as well too. So there's nothing that's off the table that was originally proposed.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee?
Make a motion to approve it?
Any other? Motion on the table is to recommend to the full city council to approve the amendment. We're amending the language of the original bond and to allow for the additional work to take place within the original dollar figure itself in approximately $80,000.
Can I just ask one question?
Councilor Murphy?
So do we have an idea how much you'll have left after the 80,000 out of that bond?
At this point, there's $2.4 million, some of which was encumbered as a contingency. What is unencumbered at this point is approximately $750,000. So we came in under budget compared to the original proposals and the original estimates.
Okay.
And this
And-
is just for the three schools, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And the answer, I know you asked me twice, but yes, we do have a copy of your outlining of the entire scope of what you just said.
Great. Tried to
All the
give you as
numbers.
much as you needed to review.
And we have the original language, just so the committee knows. I did talk to the auditor, and she's happy with the language that's in front of us. I thought we might have to have a whole new language, but she said they spoke to bond counsel, and they feel at this point in time, this is the correct format to take the vote in.
Excellent.
Councilor Bartley has joined us. We're acting on the amendment to the language of a bond that was from 2018 for the schools. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Whitney, you don't need to be present. I know you love coming down to see us, but next week, the full city council will take this up. You're always welcome, but, you know,
Thank you so
I know
much.
Dr. Reich is not paying you any overtime money,
No,
so, you
just
know, it's like,
as a courtesy to the council, I appreciate the action tonight.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the chair recognizes our mayor has joined us. Law department has been here, and Dr. Reich has joined us. So I think we should proceed back to item number one.
Motion to take item number 1 off the table for
Motion made,
discussion.
second to take item number one off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This was originally introduced under my name. It's an order that for the amount of $518,948.41 be taken from the stabilization fund, transferred into a line item in the law department known as litigation for the same amount. Under discussion, we've taken this up twice at this level. Welcome. And we've had two discussions. We've had one discussion in front of the full city council, which referred it back for additional work. At our last meeting, we came up with, I believe, 4 to 5 points of interest before we give a final recommendation to the full city council. Just recapping that before we get going, this settlement proposed, by the mayor, as only can make any proposal for a settlement, is subject to the appropriation approval of the city council. Appropriations are twofold: where the money's coming from, where the money's going to. So certainly, the city council needs to know why, and certainly, the city council needs to know where the money is going to. And be that as it may, in full disclosure, there's more than one lawsuit within this, Tasha, if I'm correct. Or is this just for one settlement? This is one settlement. Okay, because there are a couple settlements that are in front of us, I believe, but this would just satisfy the one settlement, which the city council, under correct open meeting law procedure, has listened to the facts of the case and the reasons for litigation and the reasons for possible settlement or possible fighting the litigation in executive session as allowed by the open meeting law. Once this issue is finalized, the minutes and anything of those executive sessions will be released to the public. But for purposes of litigation strategy, we have done our executive session bit. So tonight is about finalizing the appropriation. In doing so, some of the questions were, and I handled one, the direct question was from Councilor Bartley, but I know more than one city councilor agreed to the question of litigation. And David, do you have a copy of this?
I just gave it to him.
Okay, thanks, Peter. I contacted, as requested, to our bond counselor. She works for High Point Securities. Her name is Cinda McNary. She's been with the city for a long time, since like 1973. And in my request, I outlined the mayor's proposal, the appropriation before us, the amount, the strain it would put on the city budget, and the day-to-day operations of the city budget if we were to find it elsewhere. And I asked point blank if she would weigh in on what she feels this would, if any, impact on our bond rating. In doing so, she responded. She thinks the mayor well, she said you and the mayor are correct. It is a one-time use that not much money relative to the size of the fund. I agree with you that I think the rating agency would be happy enough with the explanation that this is what stabilization funds are for. Hopefully there will be an opportunity over time to replenish it, but thank you and have a great day. So I believe that satisfies, or at least is our attempt to satisfy any questions about bond rating. In doing so, there were other questions that were asked. The law department has provided, officially, we will receive it next at the full city council meeting. Thanks to the mayor and the auditor, the language changes have been made. Copies of that are here for our discussion this evening under this item, which is fine. But the official procedure would be at our next meeting, we would receive, we would receive the new language, and if we want, we could proceed with the new language, and we would dispose of the language that is in front of us. Just a reminder, Tasha, that was for a couple reasons. One was attorney fees shouldn't be coming out of the litigation account, and I think there were some questions about the amounts that were in the original proposal, and I believe one question from Councilor Vacan, at least, about taking attorney fees from stabilization. She would prefer it came from somewhere else. But with that in mind, the committee will have any questions, or do we have any other answers, or do we have anything else to present? I'm not trying to do your job for you, I just,
I did want to bring to the committee's attention the email that I just provided everyone that expresses the importance and the timeline crunch that we're now under.
Okay, and can you just state that publicly? We have the email, but if we could hear it for our, we're always televised, and this is a live meeting, so if you could just state it for our audience.
Of course. So we received an email, the city received an email from one of our outside lawyers stating that next week, the plaintiffs in this case will be going to court to report to the court if we were able to reach a settlement. The insurance company has already issued a check to the plaintiffs in this case. So now the city is under a time crunch to decide whether or not we're going to agree to the settlement. If the city does not agree to this settlement, the city is at further risk of losing the contribution to the settlement from the insurance company.
Thank you. Councilor Leahy has a question?
Lacey.
Leahy, your ears are bad tonight.
Okay, Councilor McGinty. So Tasha, once again, thank you so much for all the work you've been doing on this and providing all the details and information that we asked for. I guess my question is for Mr. Zreik. It's funny, when I started working here, I gained about 50 pounds. It seems like you're losing pounds. So I don't know what diet you're on, but I want to be so when we negotiated, or the mayor negotiated this with you, why isn't the school department picking up more, a larger percentage of this?
We stretched our budget to be able to provide what we offered to the mayor. Initially, we had a lower number, and the mayor pushed us and stretched what we had because we had a certain amount allocated for this fiscal year. Obviously, anything that we move over takes away from programming and what our budget was set for this coming year. So we were able to find the funding that we I know you're aware that the school department is offered, but the mayor pushed us, and we did what we went as far as we could go in this budget.
Thank you.
Councilor Tallman, and then we'll get to the mayor.
Tasha, thanks again for coming down and explaining this to us. Now, on the email you stated they want to know with a vote tonight to the full council if we're either going to approve this or not. And is it unusual for insurance to be paid already, a check cut already for the settlement from the insurance company without the city even making the decision yet?
I'm not sure. I can't speak to whether or not it's unusual. I'm not sure what conversations took place between the insurance company and the plaintiffs in this case. All that I know is that they've already issued the check. The plaintiffs, I also left a copy of the release agreement. The plaintiffs have already signed the agreement. So I think that that's the reason why the insurance company already issued their portion of the settlement.
Okay, and can you explain again that if for some reason the council doesn't approve this funding, that we may be liable for or losing the insurance?
Absolutely, yes. So the insurance company, they're supposed to pay for the city's outside counsel, damages, et cetera. And as you all are aware, the insurance company sued the city so that they wouldn't have to pay for the insurance. We reached a settlement. So if the city does not contribute to the settlement, then the case where the insurance company sued the city, that case will still continue. However, another argument point for the insurance company will now be the city had an opportunity to settle this case. It was a reasonable amount, and the city did not do so. So more likely than not, the court will probably decide in the insurance company's favor.
Okay, and one more question. If we do not agree to this settlement, where do we go from there? Does it continue and do the costs just continue to rise?
Yes, so if the city does not agree to the settlement, then the case against the insurance company, that will still go forward, and the city will continue to pay our outside counsel in that case. In the underlining case, the city will be responsible for paying outside counsel for that case, as well as solely be responsible if the city is found to be at fault and pay for damages, attorney's fees, and anything else related to the case.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yep. Tasha, are you familiar with the, well-versed in the laws regarding unfair and deceptive business practices? In your opinion, when someone says to you, when a company says to the city, in this case is Zurich, right, that they've already issued a check, and if we don't agree to settle, they're going to sue us. Isn't that kind of not unusual? Does that qualify in this case, or is it bordering on it?
I'm not sure. I would have to research that. I think that since there's already a pending case with the insurance company against the city, this would just be something that's added to their argument to say there was a settlement that was offered to the city did not take the settlement. And I think a defense to that would be that the insurance company forced the city into the settlement. I think it would just be arguments, legal arguments on both sides of the coin.
Correct, just because it's expeditious to the insurance company and not necessarily the city, they're putting a gun to our head to accept it,
Right.
in
You're
layman's
correct.
terms.
Yes, you're correct in that. I would have to research the law on that, and I can reach out to our outside counsel to find out if the city would have any defenses to that, to say that the insurance company forced the city into the settlement. But that would, Zurich's argument probably would be compelling to the court to say there was an opportunity to settle and we didn't settle. And then it will be for the court to decide who is at fault in that case.
Okay, I get all that part.
Yeah.
So by agreeing to the settlement, does that limit us or restrict us now from any recourse against Zurich?
I'm not sure. I would have to read the stipulation of dismissal to find out.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Morse, I heard you had a long day.
Councilor McGivern.
We appreciate you coming
No,
back.
thanks for having me. I heard you were looking for me last week.
The
so
time
I'm
we,
here today.
well, I'll get a hold of you. It's more important. It's about Saturday, actually. Councilor Tomlin and a few of us are just wanted to remind you that we'll be unveiling the sign for Mrs. Boyle.
Yeah, I'll be there. Sue texted me to make
Okay.
sure I'll be,
Yeah, I
I'll
kind
be
of thought so,
speaking. Yeah.
between, that they would make sure you knew.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know you were in Boston today. I know you traveled back just quickly just to be with us this evening. We appreciate it. Alex, you know we've had executive sessions, and we're not here to discuss facts about any litigation case because our counsel says that, until the litigation is settled or until the court case comes up, that we don't do that in a public session. It's smart and it's appropriate according to open meeting law. However, there's an appropriation in front of us. And that appropriation, we've been talking about now for a couple months, and we'd love to hear from you in a general discussion as to the use of stabilization, which I think is, well, for your reasons, and the use of and whatever you want to say in general about reasons to settle.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Councilor, for the opportunity, and other councilors as well for engaging in this conversation over the last couple of months. I think Tasha made many of the points. I think, as many of you know, and when Detbecker was here a couple of months ago in the executive session, we talked about the maximum exposure to the city at the onset of this case, looking at a potential exposure of $7.5 million. And after many days of mediation, and as has been explained before, there's sort of two cases here. One, the actual case with the plaintiffs, and then the separate case with the insurance company when they wanted to deny coverage. And so that required us to spend both outside counsel on the case itself and then outside counsel on making sure that we were holding the insurance company accountable as well. And we were continuously told throughout mediation that this wouldn't settle for less than $1 million. And there was a lot of pressure on me throughout that process to accept amounts of 1.5, 1.4, 1.3, and I continued to say no for several weeks until we got Zurich, because the question was, what's the split? And so the city ideally wanted a 50-50 split with the insurance company. We didn't quite get there, but we were told throughout the process that Zurich wasn't going to go above, $200,000. and then they weren't going to go above 250. And then at that point, my direction to the law department was, well, we can't go above $500,000 total, whatever the number was at the time. I can't remember the exact number, and we'll continue to move forward and spend money on outside counsel and call their bluff and see what the insurance company comes back with. And that's when we got word that the case would settle for $950. And Deb Ecker herself was pleasantly surprised that we got to that number. And then Zurich would cover $350 of that, which would leave us with $600. And before we reached that number, I had already spoken to the superintendent about the school's ability to kick in some funds to lower the financial burden to the city. Unfortunately, the technical piece of this, the city is on the hook for 100% of it. And so, Dr. Reich could have said, we're not in a position to provide funds. I happen to think because it's a school-related case, it's a compelling argument for there to be a contribution. I originally asked for 100, I believe, and we had another conversation, and we were able to bump it up to 150. Which then, so of the 950 settlement, we have 350 from Zurich, 150 from the schools, and 450 from the city. Obviously, none of us want to be in this situation. We talked about the particulars in executive as to the process and how the plaintiffs were chosen and by the law firm and so on and so forth. But here we are. I think the point is that if, regardless of the letter from the insurance company about sort of boxing us into a corner, even without that email, if we do not settle, we'll continue to have to litigate the case itself, and a settlement in the future would not include any contribution from insurance regardless, because we'd be looking at that case in the next few months, and we'd probably have a decision in the next few months on that. And so we'd be covering 100% of the exposure, and the legal expenses alone on securing outside counsel to defend us against the insurance company, and then of course on the case with the plaintiffs itself, in my opinion, would exceed the $450,000 obligation for the settlement in the first place. And this is, when I look at this, the city hasn't seen a case like this, as far as I can remember, in a long time. And so when I look at the stabilization use policy in regards to one-time expenses unforeseen, I don't think any of us planned for this or saw this or adequately budgeted for it, given that we didn't expect this type of lawsuit to come at our doorstep. But I think we've been able to negotiate the best settlement given unfortunate circumstances. And I think, even the communication from Cinder, our financial consultant, I think agrees that this is, this could certainly be justified to the rating agencies as a one-time expense. We have $13.7 or so million in the stabilization fund. The $450,000 that would come from it for the settlement is less than the interest earned on the stabilization account over the last year. And so I think we have a compelling argument to put this behind us, stop the bleeding financially out to outside counsel, and allow the law department in the city to move forward. And, a testament to Dr. Reich and his team for doing a lot of work internally to make sure that, we don't have this situation again.
Thank you. And Dr. Zweig, I know you answered the question with the purpose, part of the purpose of that you're here this evening is because of the money coming from your budget. I appreciate that. For the record, I'm torn about taking any monies from a school budget that is there to serve the student population in terms of providing education. And I appreciate the fact though that, you're helping out with the 150 at the same time, still providing the services that are required of the public schools. Chair will open it up for discussion, the committee or other members. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you.
And just for a note, Councilor Bresnahan has joined us.
Mayor, this through the chair, the stabilization, just say that rephrase again, the stabilization use
Policy?
policy, where is that?
It's in many places. It's
I think I have a copy.
in the auditor's office. I know we've sent it to the council, I think within the last 6 months, following one of our finance meetings following the conversation I think we had at your behest at one of the finance committee meetings several months ago.
Okay, I haven't seen it. I'll ask the auditor for it. The part here that I'm focusing on is the part where hopefully there'll be an opportunity over time to replenish the account. Now, that's from Ms. McInerney. What's your plan to replenish the account?
Yeah, I think we've had responsible usage of the fund over the last 8 years, and so the fund at $13.7 million is the highest it's ever been. And so, as I said before, the 450 is still less than the interest earned over the last 12 months on that fund. And so, absent any active appropriation from me or the council into the fund, I imagine with continued good investing on behalf of the administration, we'll have that replenished naturally.
What you're saying, there's no plan on your part to replenish that amount. That's what you said. That's what you just said. Because what you said is, listen, let's be frank. The reason that account balance is where it is, because we didn't take it out for raises, we didn't take it out for several other items that were proposed before us. Those items came from your office. Everyone has been stopped. Have you a plan to replenish this $450,000 other than investments? And that, by the way, that's a byproduct of the market. So markets go up, markets go down, we understand that. What is your plan to replenish the account directly? Is there a plan?
So as I said before,
Oh, there's no plan. That's your plan.
Are you going to let me speak, or you can continue to ask a question and
Are
then continue to
you going to
speak?
give a different answer other than that you have no plan?
All right, well, it seems like you've come prepared
Can the mayor answer?
You've come prepared with an agenda that I'm not sure what is. So like I said before, the fund is at the highest it's ever been. We'll continue to be good stewards of that fund. And I'm frankly not sure what you're referring to when proposes from my office to use the fund for raises and whatnot. So.
Well, you're great at looking back at history when you suit your pleasure, but the question was pretty direct. It says here, hopefully there will be an opportunity over time to replenish the $450,000. You're saying that you are zero plan to do that other than to increase, other than to hopefully the market will increase. That's your plan. So I'll stick with that as the answer.
So the plan is to use the fund responsibly. It's in line with the stabilization use policy that was presented to this council.
Right.
It will be replenished with responsible investments in the stabilization fund. And the whole point of using the stabilization fund is because you don't have the money in the general operating budget in the city. If we did, we had $450,000 in a light item appropriated by this body for a municipal budget, then we wouldn't be needing the stabilization fund. But the stabilization fund is for unforeseen events like this. We don't have $500,000 laying around in the municipal budget. I don't think many cities do. And so this is what we're using it for.
Is it your office that sets the budget? Is it your office that appropriates funds?
I think you know that, Counselor.
Is that answer yes?
Is this a trial or is it a council meeting? Are we working together to protect the city, or are we in a trial?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Is this a courtroom? I know you're an attorney, but give me a break. This isn't a performance, Counselor. I'm here to solve the problem and move forward.
Is ridiculous. All you gotta do is watch the tape from last week.
All right, gentlemen, let's.
If you watch the tape last week, Mayor, we had, and you were invited to that meeting, and it was agenda item 1. We were waiting for you to come in. So, and in fact, we had emailed back and forth prior to that meeting.
Yeah, about contracts, not about this.
Right. Right. Exactly. But you were invited to that meeting, and you knew there was.
Yeah, and I can't come to every meeting.
Correct. And so I had no agenda. There's no agenda. So I'm sorry you characterized it that way and you feel that way. If you'd watched last week's tape, that is the agenda for tonight, is my point. There were several questions that all of us raised. Okay, and so just be clear. I just want to be clear on this. So there's no answer to this. The $150,000 from the school department. And I'm grateful that the school department recognizes it. Let me ask a question to the chair to the receiver. Is there, as the receiver knows, the city stabilization fund is $450,000 as proposed to remove this. Is there a plan from the school department to help with replenishing the funds that have been used through stabilization, Dr. Zreich?
No, there's no plan.
No plan. Okay. So this would be the one-time and one and only payment from the school department relative to this lawsuit.
That's right.
And just through the chair to the receiver, when you say you found $150,000, what account, what part of the budget is that taken out of the school department?
I actually don't know exactly what account. I'd have to ask Mr. Soto. I learned about this meeting today, so I don't have that information.
Oh, wow. Really? Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. I'm happy to be here. This is exactly what I would like to be doing tonight. But No, I don't know. We learned of it a few months ago, and we just made, I'm not sure exactly what account, but we
Steve,
made sure that we
can you-
held.
Can you get that exact?
I can get that
that's account?
information. Yep,
And if that's
sure.
proprietary or something, you can at least forward it to the chair. I think that'd be.
Yeah, who would you like me to, who should I send that
You should
information?
certainly send it to the chair.
Okay, sure.
Certainly, and I wouldn't want it to go somewhere where it shouldn't
Sure.
be.
Yep.
So I'm not really sure what the rules are on that, but if you go to the chair and if the chair needs to review that with the auditor or whatever,
Yep.
we can. Okay, just through the chair to legal, have you seen a copy of the check, Tasha? From Zurich?
No, I have not.
Okay, are we gonna get a copy of the check?
I can request a copy of the check.
Okay, and why, can you ask counsel, I guess it's, I don't remember the attorney's name, let me just look it up, for Miss Ecker. Ask Miss Ecker, why would the insurance company send a check directly to a plaintiff prior to a settlement, prior to a court signing off on a settlement? Why would that happen? I have never heard of that, but, I'm not involved with multi-million-dollar litigation, but to me, that is pretty unusual. In fact, unprecedented. So I need to get an explanation, as I want to see the check, to whom was it made payable, and if necessary, again, I would just funnel it right through the chair of the finance committee, and then he can, Chairman McGivern can, however he wants to disperse it to the rest of the city council, that'll just save you the step of, sprinkling the infield.
Sure.
So if you would, Joe, just receive that, please. The issue raised last week relative to paying council through this, that's how it goes from 450 to 518. What's our position on that? Is there an alternative for the 68, or is there no alternative?
Yeah, we filed 2 orders for Tuesday's meeting, 450 from stabilization, and then the 68,000 would come from a surplus account in the treasurer's office, 68,000 from borrowing certification to go towards the outside counsel expenses, so that that wouldn't have to come from stabilization, so it would reduce that amount to 450.
Okay, so it's no longer, before it's no longer the 518, before it's is the 450 only, Mayor, is that true?
From stabilization, but then before you on Tuesday night will be a $68,000 appropriation for the litigation expenses.
Okay, and is the treasurer gonna be available for, is she gonna send a communication to us about that? What account that's?
I can't speak to her availability or her plan to send a communication. What I do know is that her signature is on the bottom left authorizing the transfer.
Just to the finance chair, can we get some kind of a communication from the treasurer on this? Just an explanation, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Can
Councilor
you
Bartley.
attempt to anyhow?
I'm just making sure.
And just while we're going, just through the chair to Dr. Reich, Steve, the underlying factors that occurred, what preventive steps under your leadership have you taken to see that these actions are, and I get it, believe me, I've heard kind of what happened and virtually how impossible it is it's almost an impossible job. I get it, Steve. And so, but there must have been some sort of corrective action that you've taken as far as policies go. I mean, I'm not asking to get in the weeds, but are there trainings? Are there new policies? What are we doing?
We've, specifically for the therapeutic intervention program, we've partnered with the center school to be a partner in running the program. We have, the staff ratios are much different than they used to be. And we've done a lot of extensive training through the center school. And so it's a blend of Holyoke Public School staff and center school staff that helps run the program now and has run it since 2015, the fall of 2015. And that's made a huge impact in the quality of the program. We also have half the number of students in the program that we did before. We used to have over 60, and now we're just over 30. So we have more staff, less students, and a lot more support with a partnership, folks that have much more expertise than we do in supporting students with social emotional challenges.
Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you. This will be for the mayor through the chair here. Alex, we're looking at other orders tonight where there's funds left in other accounts. Just going down here, it's 16,000 in firefighters, 10,000 in firefighters, 87,000 in firefighters, 30,000 in for tree climber. We've only got 6 weeks left in the year. Have we gone through and taken a good hard look at what's left in any other account besides stabilization where we could lower this number? You know, where there's other funds available that we're finding like this for other uses, where we could even lower or lessen the amount that we're taking out of stabilization?
That's a good question, Councilor Sullivan, and we have. So we go department by department. The auditor does that in particular to see if there's any major pockets of money and whether or not we think we're going to need those excess funds to balance other deficits and potential accounts. So a lot of the things you're seeing tonight, the tree climber, the 30 grand, it was going to be a position, but investing that and taking care of the long list of tree removals throughout the city. So not touching that money. A lot of the firefighter money is either for overtime or the transfers from firefighter to injured on duty. That's a dollar for dollar transfer from a salary line item. And so we can't touch those funds, but there really weren't any big dollar line items that were unexpended other than the 68 or so thousand we were able to squeeze out of borrowing certification after taking a closer look at that. And then as, any unexpended money, obviously, depending on revenues and receipts and whatnot, will regenerate as free cash in the fall. But there wasn't a obvious place where we had an excess of hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to put towards this settlement, or we would have looked at that first, or at least to reduce the amount we needed from stabilization. The
$87,000 coming out of firefighters isn't going towards any overtime or injured on duties. It's going to animal control.
Yeah, and we have a contract that we need to pay for that. So we're in a contract with Chicopee and Springfield, and it's a specific dollar amount for that contract. I know it'll be discussed tonight, I'm sure. But they offer a number of services to the city that, we're in turn charged for. And so, Chicopee is fulfilling their obligation and Springfield is as well. And I think Holyoke needs to do that too. So I know we definitely have data to corroborate the work that TJO does on behalf of the city for animal control. And we just have an obligation to spend that money. And I think it came up last year during the budget time and, unfortunately it was cut and not everyone agreed with it, but it was. And I know it's we've been trying to figure out the pieces because the animal control provider didn't stop doing the services for residents when they called on weekends or at night for that. We don't have our own animal control facility, and when we looked at the feasibility of doing that my first term in office, the capital expense and infrastructure and amount of money that would need to be expended up front far outweighs the cost of the contract over time. So we ended up sticking with the contract, and it has gone up a little bit over the years. Just on the cost of doing business, but I think it's a good contract and a good service to the city. So we know, throughout the year, we've had that 87 number in mind. We need to find that somewhere because it's a contract we need to pay. So we know we couldn't take this 87 from firefighters and put it towards this because we knew we need to pay the animal control contract. And so we have things, each department, depending on how things shake throughout the year, that if health insurance is going to be over or under. Those are things we want to make sure we balance before this. And then again, I would just continue making the argument that instead of putting further strain on the municipal budget, because any excess funds will be carried over for operating expenses and free cash in the fall, that this is an appropriate use of stabilization funds at this moment,
Okay, thank you.
You got Councilor Bacon and then me.
Counselor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank everybody for coming down tonight, and I am happy to see the new orders relative to the payment for the council fees and the settlement of this matter, which none of us are happy about, and why would we be? I have been supportive of our legal department's recommendation that we settle, given the understanding that we've come to from what we're able to know of the situation. So I don't think it's a happy circumstance, but I think the proper use of the stabilization fund is captured with it limited to the $450,000 coming from it. I would be happier if we had a replenishment plan. However, in looking at where we sit with a lot of infrastructure needs in the city, I would also like to see any extra money we have that does become available go toward that. I mean, we have road issues, sidewalk issues, just many building issues. So if and I hope my colleagues on the council will support the use of the found monies in the treasurer's office, and she did sign off on this transfer, on this attachment that we got tonight, Council Bartley. I'm not sure if you had it at the time, but she has signed off on the $60,000 out of her department. So, you know, not a happy thing, but I think this is a better way to approach it than we had last week. Thank you.
Counselor Murphy.
Yeah, a few things. Tanya, is it May 28th? Is that still the date?
Yes and no. It's a complicated question, sorry.
Okay.
So,
Give me a non-complicated answer.
yes. So, May 28th is the next court date in the federal court action. That's the case that the insurance company has against the city. But next week is another court date for the underlining case. I'm not sure the date of that. But I do know that it's early next week, and I did let our outside counsel know that I wouldn't be able to get an answer back to her until sometime next week because the Finance Committee meeting tonight and the full council meeting on Tuesday.
So could that other court case be the 20th or 21st before we have our next meeting?
It could be, but it could be. I'll find out the date.
Assuming that the item is coming on our agenda, does that give you some room in court to make sure that if we should approve it on the 21st, that in fact the agreement is going to be in effect?
Yes, so I would be able to, I communicated to our outside counsel that tonight was a finance committee meeting, and whichever way, if the finance committee does decide to vote tonight, whichever way the finance committee decides to vote, I'll report that back to our outside counsel.
Okay. Let me go down the line. Dr. Drake, I know you said that you were able to come up with $150,000 in this year's budget, so immediately I heard this year's budget, and in line with the idea of replenishing the stabilization fund somewhat, I'm wondering if, and this would be a gentleman's agreement, I'm sure it wouldn't be contracted, but a gentleman's agreement that we might look at potentially a third more, 50,000 over the next 3 years, which would be to go back into the stabilization fund. I mean, I know you, and I know 99% of the school department had nothing, or 99.999% of the school department had nothing to do with the problem, but it is, you know, half of our city budget, and if we could get to the point where we could get a little bit more, I would feel more comfortable. And that's just a request. If there's monies in the future that can be transferred, first of all, I think it would be well received by the council that we're making an effort to replenish something that we had no control over in terms of funding. And I certainly think if you can do that, that would be well received. So you don't have to comment on it, but
Yeah,
you
rather
can if
than
you
that,
want.
no, yeah, we'll certainly, look at that. I think we've demonstrated, we've tried to be good partners with the city council or the city, I should say, in the past. So, that's something, Anthony and I can have conversations with the mayor if that possibility exists. But, yeah, I wouldn't be prepared to comment directly on that right now.
You can't write a check.
No, we are trying to fund a
Just
few other
checking on your
things.
checking. And the last comment, and this would be to the mayor, and my concern is, this order was filed on the 5th of March, and pretty much the same discussion has been going on for about 6 or 7 weeks. So, I really think we could have got this resolved probably 4 weeks ago or more, had we just recognized, all right, the stabilization of went to litigation and the attorney fees. I think it was pretty much a solid position on the council. So I would just kind of get the beat of the council and kind of deal with these kind of things earlier. And I think we could have, and I could be wrong, but I certainly would have been willing to vote for it much earlier had we done what we're going to do in the orders that you're filing for Tuesday.
Yeah, point taken, and we'll keep that in mind in the future.
Tasha, real quick, I know you stated it or it's stated somewhere, but just recapping, 450 stabilization, 150 schools. What's the insurance kick-in number? 350. And I believe from the prior meeting, all our questions have been answered. You provided us with a copy of the release. I have one copy here in the folder. We'll get anybody who wants a copy of the release from the plaintiffs. And you provided, we have our communication from our bond counsel from Cinder. We have the new language, which we will officially receive next week, and that will be the language, if this committee refers it to, for the full city council to act on. Dr. Zreik, I thank you. Mayor Morris, I thank you for being here. Is there any other discussion or any other information we don't have? I'm missing something. Councilor Bartley, we have the original as referred to by the full city council of the stabilization fund policy for the city. We did receive it according to this last December 4th meeting. I'll ask Ryan to get everybody a copy of it. But it's still noted and sealed by the city clerk and by our committee. So with that, Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, one last question, Tasha. For Tuesday's meeting, especially after hearing what Councilor Bartley had to say about the unusual nature of them already having issued a check, could you also have an answer regarding what it does to our rights going forward as far as pursuing the insurance company for unfair and deceptive business practice?
Yes, I can look into that before next Tuesday's meeting.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve by appropriation the transfer.
I'll second that.
Motion has made and seconded to recommend to the full city council for next Tuesday's meeting that the appropriation of $518,948.41 be amended to $450,000 with the language being received next week, and that amount be approved for the purpose of settling the litigation of said suit discussed in executive session. Also, a second order will be received separating the legal fees outside counsel from the stabilization fund, and that will be received next week with, the chair will talk to the treasurer, who has signed off on it, but to make sure that that account is okay where it's coming from as far as that goes. Councilor Sullivan.
I think we have the same question. I thought
I don't think we-
procedural question.
I'm not thinking you want to recommend that this be approved, because this is...
Well, no, maybe I can word it a little bit different if it pleases everybody. We're going to recommend that this be denied
Yeah,
for the
okay.
purpose of receiving the new language.
Okay.
How's that?
Yes.
Okay. So, but I wanted the recommendation, which is what the committee is actually doing.
Okay.
To get forward in the committee report, so that we, we'll explain it
Yeah,
next
I just wanted to
Tuesday
make sure I was hearing you correctly.
meeting. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
So we have a motion that was seconded
Yep,
to approve the 518.
All in favor?
No?
okay.
Oh, no.
Well, let's reword the motion to add, I said it, but I didn't say it fully, that we're recommending that the original language be denied for the purpose of taking up the new language, which is the 450 separated with the 60 from stabilization and 68,000 from the treasurer's account. And that will officially come into the city council. We have copies of it for discussion here at next Tuesday's meeting.
Second.
But we're recommending to agree with the mayor to settle the litigation that we've talked about in executive session. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair enough?
Yep.
Everybody happy?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Dasha, if you can stay in the hot seat. Next item is item number 3.
Motion to take item number 3 off the table for discussion.
So moved. This is a request from the line item known as city solicitors for $29,324 to be moved into assistant city solicitor, $29,324. Tasha, under discussion, could you explain the, what's going on in the law department and why we need to move salary monies around?
Yes, so prior to Attorney Payer leaving the city, there was money in the assistant line item, and there was money in the associate line item. After Attorney Payer left the city, I was promoted to assistant. Attorney Barnes is currently our acting solicitor, so in the law department, there's myself as an assistant, Attorney Gina Perro as an assistant, and Attorney Crystal Barnes is an assistant. So we're asking to move the money from the associate position to the assistant position to carry us through to the end of the fiscal year for the three of us, our salaries.
And this amount will satisfy the requirement for each of the 3 salaries for the rest of the year?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
And is there any difference in salaries from when the budget began for the position of assistant solicitor?
No.
And you said, do you say associate, or is it's from the actual solicitor account?
I believe that this request would be from our associate line item.
Okay, if you could just check it
Says solicitor.
with the auditor to make sure that we got the correct, because the request signed off by Crystal was for solicitor and going to assistant solicitor. The explanation is fine. We just got to make sure it's coming from the correct account.
Actually, I may have worded it wrong, because I know that there was also money in the solicitor line as well, but
It makes sense that there would be, because when Paul left, I think that account's been used a couple times, but not the full amount not the full balance. I'll call her, but if you could do it too, just because she may have questions for the law department. Counselor Sullivan?
How much does that leave in the solicitor account?
I'm not sure.
We can get that answer.
I can find out. I can find out how much that would be left in the solicitor line. We don't have a solicitor right now.
It's just very interesting after listening to how every account was shaken down, so we didn't have to take anything out of, we needed it all out of stabilization, here we go. Yeah, if you could find that out for
Of course.
Tuesday. Giving you a lot of homework for Tuesday, huh?
Any other discussion?
Make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the transfer to recommend an adoption to the full city council at our next regular meeting next Tuesday. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Next item, Councilor Leahy will be abstaining for a conflict.
Make a motion to take up item number 4 off the
Motion
table
made
for
second to
discussion.
take item number 4 off the table for discussion. This comes under my name. A transfer request from plumbing gas inspector, $2,488, from wire inspector, $7,500, for a total of $9,888, to a new position, chief official of wires, $9,988. The motion is to take off the table for discussion. There is someone here. I know I've talked to you on the phone. Could you give your name? Joe Mesmore. Joe, welcome. The transfer is not an unusual request. We understand that the plumbing and gas inspector, wire inspectors have not been filled as of recently, unless something happened very recently. And up to today, the request has been to transfer the money into consulting, where we bring in other people to do the work. Could you explain to us the request for transfer and what this new position is?
Damien's looking to up the position.
You got a mic, there's a button right there.
And Joe, I'm sorry, what's your last name before I forget? M.E.,
MECZYWOR.
thank you. Okay, so the request is, go ahead.
So he's looking to add the new position where the, sorry, I'm not used to public speaking, so
You're doing fine.
he's looking to get a master electrician hired so eventually we can oversee and subordinate inspectors because the department's growing. He wrote this letter for everybody to kind of explain the situation. I don't know if you have copies or.
I don't know. Do you have it, Joe? Go ahead. Just pass it.
No, we don't. Thank you. See, this is the first time we're seeing it, Joe. I'm just going to read this. It's only
Okay.
2 paragraphs real quick. It's addressed, dated May 13th, addressed to the committee, but it also is, unfortunately, from Daming, our building commissioner. I cannot attend the meeting. He is at the FEMA Emergency Management Institute. Hopefully this letter and another member of our staff will suffice in providing enough information. This request is to create a new position in the building department. The position is for chief official of wires. The position is a higher level of supervision of electrical inspections. Once filled, it will manage all aspects of electrical that current position does not encompass. In part, includes management of all other electrical inspectors per diem staff. It requires a master's license as opposed to the lower level license of a journeyman. This new position will also require to perform inspections on all the state facilities in the city, including Hoyle Community College, the Soldiers Home, to name examples. Fees to be collected at these inspectors to offset additional costs. With the significant increase in permits collected over the last 5 years, we have more than doubled the amount of revenue coming into the city. The average fees in this category has been around $80,000. If this position is voted on for a transfer, it symbolizes the acceptance of creating this position and finding the line item. The money to be transferred is coming from surplus funds from our plumbing inspector. We talked about that due to a gap in hiring for that position. It is also coming from a junior level electrical inspector that, because of the timing, we will not be looking to fill this year. Funding will be requested for both positions going into the next year for the new budget. The plan is for the supervisory position, train that individual, reassess the needs of the department, and the junior level position at that time decide if there's a need for a full-time or per diem staff. We project this will be 6 months after hire, so that within so with that, sometime about a year from now, with all things considered, sincerely, Damian Cody, Building Commissioner. Thank you. Anything else you want to add? I know you're in the hot seat with taking care of the big guy, but I think there's going to be a lot of questions. The chair will open up to anyone. Councilor President.
Just real quick, can you just maybe not give a breakdown of who's in the office now?
Right now, we have the head clerk. We have Damien's the commissioner. Kevin Lajamoni is the assistant commissioner. And I'm an inspector.
You're an electrical inspector, correct?
No, I'm a building inspector.
Building inspector, okay.
Leslie Burnell is on a federal grant as an inspector, a local. And then there's Tom Leahy is the interim electrical inspector, and Mark Anderson is the plumbing inspector. And then we have Jose, and I forget his last name at the moment. He's our demolition. And then we have Marie Hogan as a part-time clerk.
Now, Tommy Leahy, do they have that, is that position, he's not a city employee, correct?
No, he's per diem.
Right, per diem, so we don't have an actual electrical inspector?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just a couple comments.
Sure.
Well, first, Joe, let me ask, is this new position, it's not a union position, is it? Does it come under a union contract?
I believe it'll be under the professionals. I believe it's under the same union Damien's in, the supervisors union.
Okay. Starting there, and I wish I asked the law department to stay, and I fell asleep. This is an unusual way to create a position. If it's a union position, typically the union negotiates with the mayor and the department head, for the reasons, and that's one way to do it. A second way to do it for non-union positions is an ordinance, usually would be required. Now, there might be an ordinance out there. This might be something that's been on the books but not filled in recent years. I'm not sure. It doesn't ring a bell to me, but, and just starting there's several other questions, I think pertaining, Council President has, started with, the full staff. I realize it still has to be, next year has to be, worked out with the mayor as far as, and then given to the council as a budget appropriation. But I think, well, I'll stop there. Those are my questions, which I don't think are gonna be answered this evening. Although I do appreciate Mr. Cody's letter does answer the reasons, I think, for the proposal, and knowing a little bit of how the department works, I do see legitimate, as a legitimate request, but we also have to do an affordability request as for the big picture, not just this one position.
All right.
Is there other questions or other things the committee would like to find out about?
Joe, I just have a
Also,
comment.
Councilor Bacon?
Well, my only comment is, I think we would have to have the position already in the budget in order to be able to transfer to it. And if it's not in there, we have nowhere to legally put the money.
That's, I mean, I know the auditor could quickly create a code and quickly create a line
Right,
item.
but I mean-
But it's not there, and that's, an ordinance also would do the same thing in terms of doing it. Joe, do you know, we're 1 month left of the year, what the rush is? Why not?
Well,
Why not just make this part of the budget process for July 1, beginning July 1?
I believe, we've been trying to fill the other position.
Yeah,
And I think he's trying to get this supervisory position as fast as possible, because, so we can, move on with a supervisory position, and then he can be in line to any subordinates coming in to manage them.
fair enough. Council President?
So Joe, so this position is to have someone kind of marinated for the incoming inspector?
That is part of it, as far as I know.
Right, so the supervisor will oversee the electrical inspector?
Yep.
So Tom Leahy would no longer be working for the city, you guys would be hiring a full-time
Well, I mean, as it says in the letter, they're gonna take a look at the needs after the supervisor's in.
Right.
Of actually what, it may be a per diem position or a part-time inspector.
When you say it might be per diem, that, the actual position of the supervisor would be a full-time city job?
Correct.
Right? So either either his subordinate would be full-time, part-time, or per diem?
Correct.
Got it. And this would be this supervisor would actually be the electrical inspector for the city?
Yes,
And that's what Tom is doing now?
yes.
Cool, thank you very much.
In the past, Mr. Cody has explained to us, he is using Mr. Leahy, and that's why Councilor Leahy cannot discuss or vote on this matter. His intentions were to fill the position, but he's had difficulty filling the position at the level, I think both the level of pay and the level of the electrical inspector. But be that as it may, I much as I appreciate trying to resolve the problem, because they're both very important positions and needed, I think we need more. And the committee would suggest, the chair would suggest, we refer a copy to the law department to weigh in on procedural, on how to create the position. The mayor has signed off, and again, there may be something we're missing here, but also a request to, if it is gonna be part of the professional union, that, you know, that they be involved in discussion, and I think we need to hear, well, we have a budget in front of us.
Yeah,
I mean,
we got it right here.
I don't know if it's in the new budget.
I didn't see it in
It's
there.
not in the new budget, so it sounds like it hasn't really even gotten to the level of discussion, you know, with next year's budget, you know, unless the mayor plans to file a supplemental before the end of this year. But is there, Counselor Tomlin?
No, I was just saying, I was looking at the budget for the department, and I understand what Damie's gonna do here, and I really respect the letter he sent us, but, you know, anything new, any new positions, especially a supervisory position, I think it's important that, you know, we find out, you know, how it's gonna work in our future year, you know, the fiscal year. And he stated there that I think the department is bringing a lot more money in. I mean, $80,000 is a lot of money.
Right.
And it could even be more. And, you know, if we have the people underneath him that he could oversee,
Right.
it'll work out great, I think. But I think there's just too many questions here, and I think the chairman stated I should go to the law department to find out, you know,
Okay.
what they say and how we can, you know, fill this position, or if it's warranted, if it has to go through ordinance or whatever. I think that's the right way to do it.
Okay.
But I respect you coming down
All right.
and explaining that to us.
So I think we have the answers from Mr. Cody, the reasons from Mr. Cody. Joe, thank you, but we need, you know, if there's no other discussion, the chair will entertain a motion to table.
Motion to table this item?
Copy to the law department for procedural advice, copy to the professional union if it's gonna be a union position,
Yes, Joe?
collective bargaining position, and a copy to the auditor to tell us how do you create a new line item in the budget. And it's gotta be more than just a simple transfer. It should be, originally it should be coming, well, it is coming from the mayor, but originally it should be something in the budget. Counselor Bartley?
Just under discussion, the union itself, is that a certified union?
That has been my question for the past 15 years. We have recognized any collective bargaining negotiations that they have made with the mayor. But if you, the whole history is, it started with a handful of department heads who were non-union, some got in, some got out, that some were qualified, some were deemed not qualified. But it was nothing that was, until we received a contract in front of us, it was nothing that was ever asked for the city council to recognize, but quite frankly, I don't know how that worked. They originally were just an association, but they did some collective bargaining, and that's why I say union.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that is, and certainly you've got two uniform officials with us that know a lot about certified units as opposed to a bargaining unit. So, I don't know, and I'm not trying to be obstinate here, but it's, how can we say that this, whatever it's called, can be to create a position through this way, and I think I hear what Mr. Cody's saying, is that this building, this department is doing very well, and we're generating some income, as it were, and now we want to use the income generated to create some additional positions within the department. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I don't know if that's exactly the way that this is how we create positions. I don't understand why the committee would not just move this back to city council. Why leave it here? I mean, this cannot be the mechanism by which we create a position. It can't be doing it. And despite the sincerity of the letter, and I don't doubt the sincerity of it, I mean, to say at the end that if you guys go ahead and do the transfer, then this ipso facto creates a position. Yeah, I don't think so. So I'm just, I mean, I would rather, I mean, you can do what you want, but to me, I think it would drive the point home a little clearer if you just give a leave to withdraw, send it back to the department head and say, you carry the ball with the law department and you figure out how to create a position for your office, especially in light of the fact that we're not clear that this supervisors group is in fact a certified union. And if it's not, then we need to create an ordinance, and you need to file the proper order to create the position. And the mayor's gonna have to tell us how it's gonna be budgeted as well, and budgeted going forward. So, I guess I'm a little, I would just hate to see this thing lapse in a committee, and then, not all of us can attend all the committee meetings, and then it comes back, Joe, to a full city council. And, maybe I missed the finance committee because I'm not on it, and I'm not getting the full explanation. So I don't see what the purpose of it would be to have it sit here and, tabled. So frankly, I just think it should go back to city council with a complied with or a leave to withdraw, and just say, because this is not the way to create a position. I mean, through a transfer for a position that doesn't exist, and a memo.
I think with the exception of sending it back to the full city council right now, we agree with everything you just said. And we're looking for answers, and that's what committees do. Nothing wrong with what you're saying, David. I just think, this is a request, and I noted, it's the end of the year, and I quite frankly would rather see this be something discussed at a different procedure for the beginning of next year. But not knowing if there is a line item or ever was a position like this, not knowing, what has already taken place with the law department, with the auditor, with the mayor, other than what we have in front of us, and because Mr. Cody's not here, I just think, one more meeting at this level, and then we'll probably end up doing exactly what you said.
So if I may, then if that's the case, then I guess this committee should get a very clear answer from the law department as to how this position is to be created. I think that's what you said, but
We're looking for procedural advice as to creating of any position, but, I agree.
Yeah, well, I get, yeah, I mean, I'm not asking her, or the law department, well, I think it's all women, so any lady in the law department to give us an opinion on this, on the professional supervisors group, union, bargaining unit, whatever they're called, as to their legality. I mean, we know that, the patrolmen's union, we know there's a supervisor, we know that. Those are certified unions, recognized under general law. But is this group have the same status?
We will ask those answers.
Oh, we need to know that.
We've been asked, and we've been given answers about that over the years, and I think it's a good time to relook at it. The only reason I'm sending them a copy is to avoid a clash or a problem down the road, because they've been doing collective bargaining. They're an association as far as I'm concerned. I respect them all. Damien is part of it. I believe Damien is the vice president at this time, but be that as it may, I agree with everything you're saying. I just, the motion on the floor is to table it for at least one more meeting to see if we can get some quick answers, good answers, and procedurally, I don't think this is the correct way. But instead of tossing it back, we have some big meetings coming up. I think we can hold it here, get the answers, and then toss it back. Okay?
Just real quick.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just quick, and I'm sorry I was out there before they started talking about this, but it would seem to me two things. Number one, at this stage, we don't have if we were to make that transfer and we were to hire somebody, whatever way, legally or not, I mean, what is their pay? Yeah. I mean, we're talking in the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the fiscal year, we're giving them $10,000. So are we talking $100,000 job? I mean, there's a lot of questions that would have to be answered. Obviously, the creation of the position would be one of them. But again, when we make transfers, we know what a salary is.
Yeah. And I think job descriptions, and I think most job descriptions in the department are by ordinance, or at least addressed somewhere. So I agree, but anyways.
And Joe,
Councilor Reagan?
this may already have been mentioned, and he did refer to the new budget for the remainder of the funding.
Yep.
But the position isn't in the new budget.
Yes, we have a copy right here, and
Okay.
that's correct. The position is currently not in the new budget. So that leaves
That
us
complicates
very
it
little to go on.
further.
Okay?
And we appreciate Joe being here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I obviously
A
need
motion to
I
table?
obviously
Motion to
need
table,
practice.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Council Leahy, you may rejoin us. Joe, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to take up item number 5 for discussion.
Motion made, second, take up item number 5, it came in under my name, that the council order for traffic signal replacement on September 5th, 2018 be modified to include purchasing, installing school zone traffic signals at Metcalf on Northampton Street, Dean School, and Main Street. School zone signals at other schools may be included, subject to funding availability, with the original amount for the bond was $1.4 million. Motion to take up for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With us this evening is the superintendent of the DPW, Michael McManus. Michael, welcome. Again, we're doing it looks like a modification of language of a bond that came in sometime September of 2018. But if you could walk us through the request and what's going on, we would much appreciate it.
So this request was a way of supplying the school zone signs that have been requested. The traffic signal bond, that project, we're in construction now. Joe O'Connor with the fire department is doing a bang-up job of getting these in. We've secured most of the traffic signal equipment. We have a contractor doing the electrical work and the electrical connections. And looking at the budget, there is going to be some money left over at the end. So we thought that this would be a way of purchasing the school zone signals and have them installed now.
Mike, you heard a lot of the questions we asked, general questions with the similar item we just did with the schools. Is there anything within the original scope of the bond request that's not going to be done? Or is it just under budget, and that's why there's extra, came in under budget, that's why there's extra monies?
Correct.
Everything's gonna be done.
Everything that we
I just want to hear it
originally-
from you.
Yes, everything we originally planned to do will be done.
Okay, and we do have a copy of a request from you and suggested language from the auditor. The auditor again said this, she's confident, and I believe she ran it through bond counsel, that this motion and this language will appropriately amend the original bond language. Any discussion or questions? Councilor Bartley?
Well, what's the, I just have the written order, Joe. I don't have the numbers. So what's the amount, Mike?
The original amount or the new amount?
I think I got the original amount.
The original amount was $1,400,000.
I got that.
Okay, and then the amount that you're proposing to spend here, Mike?
So we're looking at two schools specifically, Metcalf and Dean. And we expect to spend possibly $20,000 at Dean and $10,000 at Metcalf for the signs, for the speed signs, speed and traffic.
And currently, there are no signs at both those schools. I know there's not at Dean.
At Dean, there's just a pedestrian crossing sign, and at Metcalf, there is no signage.
Okay. Councilor Bartley?
And we learned last night that the Department of Public Works is going to use Chapter 90 money to resurface Northampton Street from Beach to Laurel, and there's going to be some other crossings, markings and things of that nature to improve the drivability of that street and the safety of that street. Is that true?
That's true.
And it's also true that that'll start probably at late summer, fall. Mike?
July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
late
that's
June, early July.
All right, and I didn't,
And maybe not starting on Northampton Street, but starting with the roadway reconstruction. Because there's other roads that we're looking at other than just Northampton Street. We have the Dale Street neighborhood, George Frost Drive, Northampton Street, Dwight Street from Pleasant down to Linden, St. James, a portion of St. James is on the list.
okay, and so I just want to so this is when you install these, this will be sort of a continuous part of that road project, or are these all going to be segregated projects, Mike?
So for Metcalf and Dean School, it would be separate from the road work done under Chapter 90. However, at Metcalf, we might have to do some sidewalk improvements to make sure that we have ADA compliance. And if that's the case, we'll take care of the sidewalk portion under the Chapter 90 work.
Right, so I think along that, quite a few places along, if I may, Mr. Chair, just to chair,
Yes.
quite a few places along that street are not compliant with ADA.
Right, and so
A number of crosswalks are not.
part of DOT's requirements when you do roadway work is if you have a handicap access ramp that touches any pavement that you redo, that you make those ramps compliant.
All right, and so that was one of the things we approved last night in ordinance committee, new crosswalks that I discussed with Mr. Parent, and I think you're aware of those near Metcalf School that were recommended by the principal and some of the parents. So that would be part of it too, I would imagine.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And then the difference in cost between the two signs, for Metcalf School, it would be a traditional school zone flashing signal with a pedestrian crossing. And at Dean, it would be a radar speed sign in conjunction with the school zone and pedestrian crossing. Because the speeds on Main Street in the vicinity of Dean are a cause for concern. And this would be a way of addressing that. You know, it's a traffic calming measure that we see we can implement at this time.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you because Dean, and I will tell you, the police department put a speed analysis radar gun down there in between Marcotte and going south towards Dean, and I can tell you the impact has been pretty solid on that side just by having, I mean, I know there were people that were in front of me going 45 or 50 and they saw the sign and they started going, and I was checking, they were 35, 36. So it does have an impact, and I think the idea of the radar and the school zone can do a tremendous job of slowing traffic down in that area. And literally, there are, including truck drivers, there are people 60 plus on a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and there are kids walking, and we now have middle school kids at Dean. So I'm very thankful that this is being done. But I know you said you had 30,000 for that. Do you have more money for, and we were talking about potentially some other schools too, or?
There are, other schools that could be considered, like Morgan and Kelly. I would prefer to get the traffic signal project further along before we commit to providing additional signage and signals for those schools. However, the way this is written is that it's open for use at other schools other than Metcalf and Dean.
And last question, do you have any idea when the Dean situation, the lights would go up? Would that be in June, July?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's an important safety in that area.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, how much is left in the original bond after this 30,000?
So I'm projecting that we'll be around 1.2 when we're done with work, because we do have an electrical contractor on who, as they're out there working, it's incurring costs.
So
And
what, 1.2, 200 minus another 30, so there'd still be about 170,000 left?
correct. And, the way that the bonds work, the city only bonds for what we spend.
Right.
So if we spent the 1.2, we would only bond for the 1.2.
I should say, left within the authorized amount.
Correct.
Right.
Counselor Tomlin?
Thanks a lot, Mike, for coming down, and I think it's important with the zones here, with the two zones, if there's other schools that can be done, with another 10 or 20,000. On the signs, they're the regular, like 20 miles per hour sign flashing, solid signs at the schools, like the one up by Sullivan or
By Lawrence and,
Lawrence.
yeah,
And do they go both ways, north and south on the
there'd
street?
be two. Yeah,
Okay, and the one down by Dean, that's gonna be, you said, like 30 miles an hour, with the one flashing where your speed is detected?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, because I think that's effective, you see that all around different communities. I know we have a couple here in Holyoke, but when you see that you're going over, and starts flashing 45 or, higher, you automatically tend to say, well, I'm going too fast. So whatever we can do to get more of those in the city, I think would be awesome. But,
Yeah, we do our.
thanks.
Counselor Leahy?
Yeah, I guess I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what everybody else had to say. But my question is, the speed radar down at Dean, does that keep data? So much not for the police, well, maybe for the police department, but I mean, they obviously can't pull anybody over or give tickets at that point. But does that give any data for us to disaggregate, so we know what times people are speeding at, or, because that would probably help out the traffic department if they knew exactly what times the day that, different cars were speeding. So, randomly, the Chief Febo could maybe send over a couple guys and ladies, or does it do that?
I believe that it does aggregate data. There's no camera associated with this.
No, just cameras.
But
just,
it does, it's similar to the traffic radar boxes that we have,
I
where,
just think it'd be cool if you, maybe like once a quarter or maybe twice a year, send Captain Febo over an email just saying, these are the trends, from like 5:30 to 9:30 in the morning, or 3 to 6. Just so in the back of his mind, if he gets a grant, because you have the grant writer behind you, if they have a traffic grant, that might be an ideal place for them to be situated, right?
yes.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other discussion?
Make a motion to approve it?
Approve
Make a
the
motion
amendment,
to approve the request to amend the original language of said bond for the purpose of adding at least Dean School and Metcalf traffic signals as stated by the superintendent, and with the possibility of other schools, including Morgan and Kelly, if we're ready, or if you're ready, and if the money's available. Any further discussion on that motion to recommend to the full city council next week? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 6 comes under my name. This is a transfer request of $5,000 from repair and maintenance of vehicles, $500 from repair and maintenance other, and $500 from supplies, small tool equipment, for a total of $6,000 to repair and maintenance of vehicles. On the motion to take off the table for discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Mike, this is yours, right? Can you walk us through it? I'm just hesitating because it sounds like it's the same, but it's different code numbers, so can you just explain the request and what's going on?
Sure. So the code 12942 is the code for expenses in forestry, and 16502 is expenses in parks.
Gotcha.
And this money, the $6,000 would be used to purchase a used vehicle that the city, that we've got through an auction. It's a vehicle that would replace a parks truck, which is currently out of commission. We saw the vehicle come up on the online auction. The automotive and maintenance supervisor went and took a look at the truck. He looked it over and felt that it was better than what we currently had in our fleet. So we placed a bid, and we are the successful bidder, And,
Anybody else bid?
yeah, there were other bidders.
All right, I make a motion to approve it.
Just, can you give some, I know questions are gonna be asked next week. The used vehicles got how many miles or how much wear and tear, or however you wanna?
I can get you the miles. It's a Ford F450 dump truck. And
And this is used
Yeah, they're-
for
it was another,
parks cleanup and,
yeah, it was another Public Works.
Okay.
So it has a dump body, it comes with a plow, and has everything that we need, and it runs.
okay, and I'm guessing you asked the mayor for some money to buy a brand-new one, and he said no, and this was the second best plan? You gotta talk to the fire chief, how he gets new vehicles all the time.
Well, we got a bond for a bunch of new vehicles, so we were happy with those.
Okay, good answer. The mayor will appreciate that. Any further discussion?
Was this on eBay?
No, this is publicsurplus.com.
Thank you.
Motion then is to adopt and refer to this full city council next week. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Doing good here, Mike. Next one is the tree climber, $30,000. I take it that's the unfilled position. Into contract forestry services, $30,000. Chair will entertain a motion to take item 7 off the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Michael, can you walk us through it?
So this is the tree climber position. It's still unfilled. We haven't been able to receive any qualified candidates for the position. We're getting towards the end of the fiscal year, and we do have a list of trees that need to be removed. So we would like to transfer the money from the personnel line item to the expenses side in order to pay Asplin to come in for 5 weeks to do some work.
And I think we've done this once or twice already this year.
We did, a portion of the tree climber position went into the emergency cleanup at Mackenzie, I believe.
Okay, yes,
I think we did this last fiscal year, at the end of the year.
okay. I knew, my mind says it wasn't that far back, but I trust you. The question last time we did this for trees, contracted services, was how many trees will $30,000, or how much work will that get us?
It should get us 4 to 5 weeks worth of work.
And if city councilors, especially those ward councilors, start asking about how far that's gonna go into the list of trees, do you have an idea?
And
Not a promise, just an idea. Good chunk?
25 trees.
And if we really push this contracted services, 25 plus trees.
25 plus, sure.
Any further discussion? Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, I think, and I know that and I think you had contracted, because I know there were a couple of in South Summer Street, there were trees that were going into people's apartment buildings, and I know they've all been pruned, so, and they were pretty high up, so I'm assuming that was contracted out. And there was also a tree on Southeast Street that was probably 150 years old and was probably 70, 80 feet high and was ready to fall over. And that got taken down, I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago. So I know there's been some work, and as a ward counselor, I'm not asking how much we're gonna get done. I want it done. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the transfer.
Motion made second to approve the transfer. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Okay, Mike, one more for you, and Johnny, this is where you can step in. You can handle it?
Yeah.
This is item number 8, motion to take off the table for discussion. Appropriation request under my name from Police Fleet Mechanic, $26,815 to repair in motor vehicles of $28,815 with a code number that Mike's going to explain to us.
So the 14261, that's the personnel services in DPW, the automotive and equipment maintenance Department. That's where the salary for the police fleet mechanic resides. It would be transferred to the R&M motor vehicles and the expense of the police department budget. So that's what they use when they need to send their cars out to Marquardt Ford or elsewhere. The police fleet mechanic is a position that was started this year. It has not been filled. We've had a couple of people we interviewed. It hadn't panned out with the people who were interviewed. And then the other resumes that we've received to date just haven't been up to the quality that we're looking for in a police mechanic. The position is still open. We're still looking and talked with the personnel director today about it, and he said he'll repost it out there.
How much, if any, monies will be left in the police mechanic?
0. So we've already done one transfer halfway through the fiscal year for half the salary, and this is the other half of the salary.
Any questions or discussion? Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, just a quick question, Mike. We just approved for a lot of new vehicles, and just wondering and we're trying to rotate them every 2 years, as I understand now, right? Isn't that the plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why would this plan in place? These vehicles come with a warranty, and it seems like we're spending an awful lot of money on maintenance on vehicles that should be warranted. What part of them, you know?
Well, we haven't bought vehicles.
Yeah.
In how long, John?
Probably 2017.
Yeah, 2 years, 3 years. Last year's request was denied.
I think he's referring to what's been brought before the council, the proposal for the new cruisers for 2 years.
That's in the budget for July 1.
At least the new ones, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, but right now we've got vehicles from 2017.
And much older than 2017.
I think we did 2 or 3 in 2017, and there was 2 or 3 others.
So we should be seeing some relief from this in the future?
I know as long as we have old vehicles, as long as we have any vehicles in our fleet, we're going to require maintenance on those vehicles. With the police fleet, these are cars that are constantly being used. They're being used hard, and they do need a lot of maintenance and repairs. I wouldn't want to say that moving forward, what we do will reduce the amount of maintenance that's needed on the fleet without looking at the fleet as a whole. You know, if we replaced everything in the fleet in one day, then yeah, the maintenance would go down. But we're only replacing a small portion of the police fleet. And that remaining portion keeps getting older. And as vehicles get older, they need even more maintenance.
Okay, I guess my question's going a little beyond this request right here, but thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Murphy.
What is the proposed salary?
The proposed salary was, or is,
It's never been filled though, right?
correct. Yes, $53,630.
So, I mean, it would be, we're having a hard time getting applicants and certainly getting qualified applicants, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Correct.
So, I mean, it would be interesting, and obviously, we're getting new vehicles, so there will be some warranty situation, but it'd be interesting to see how much we spend on the older vehicles, and if we're sending them out, and if it might be worthwhile to raise that salary so that we're not spending so much money going out. I don't know, but I certainly think it would be something to look at, and, but I certainly, if we get 6 new cruisers, I think it was 6 we're getting, right? That certainly should take care of those for the next year or so, but, and I guess the other question I have in a police department vehicle, is the warranty based on mileage or is it based on years? And if it's based on mileage, we may be out of the warranty pretty quickly.
Correct, yeah. Probably mileage, whatever comes first. Mileage, probably.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Make a motion to approve the transfer.
Second, make a motion to adopt, approve the transfer with the recommendation to full city council next week. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
If, item 13 with Roca.
Roca, sorry, we didn't know who Roca was. If we could just go out of order real quick to do the request of Councilor Bresnahan, who I believe is left,
He
but,
sent me a text, he said just make it complied with.
okay. Mike's got a quick explanation for this. If we could, out of order, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is a request by Councilor Bresnahan, and that any monies that are spent for Roca services be presented to the city council. The superintendent is passing out items that are currently through the DPW.
We got an email too as well today, right?
You did? Okay.
Mike, if you want to explain this?
So Roca is a transitional employment company. They operate in Massachusetts, and they have an office here in Holyoke. There's two different crew types that work with DPW. There's the transitional employment crew, which DPW uses as kind of a labor force for doing various jobs. They remove blight and illegal dumping, tires, mattresses that are left in alleys or on the side of the road. See, we've used them to remove brush. There was some brush clogging a drainage channel off of Northampton Street up past Kmart Plaza, and also the brush on the embankment near Pouliot Pool. They've done some selective demolition at city properties. They did painting in City Hall of a couple of offices, cleaning up the parking garage, and snow removal on the corners. You know, it's one thing that we can easily move the snow from the roads onto sidewalks, and then they come along in the downtown area and clear up the wheelchair ramps. And this group provides a lot of labor and services for DPW that our crews just can't get to on a regular basis. And then the other group that we use with Roca is a landscaping crew, and they take care of landscaping at city parks and public places, public spots that the Parks Department can't get to.
Councilor,
Yeah, thank you. So I'm kind of familiar with Roca, but I'm not really familiar. So is it a company who owns Roca? How's that work?
Yeah, I'm not sure what their ownership structure is like. I know that they hire troubled youths to try to give them a pipeline or a way out of the.
So who oversees them? Do they have a supervisor on staff?
So the Roca crew has a Roca supervisor, and then they report to DPW daily.
And does somebody from the DPW go and monitor their work, making sure that everything is to your quality?
We do after.
Okay.
We're not there while they're doing the
No.
work. We might stop by. We also provide them with, small tools and equipment. as
And in your
needed.
professional opinion, you're happy with it?
I'm very happy with Roca's, yeah.
Thank you.
they do get grants from the state. I don't think they're part of the Shannon grant, but they do have grants from the state, and they do take court referrals, both from juvenile court and from district court itself. But as Mike said, the general population is troubled youth, and not just to get them off the street, but to give them a little bit of money in their pocket and make them get the taste for full-time employment down the road, I think is part of what their goal is.
And they also, in addition to the work, they provide cognitive behavioral therapy for these people.
There's classroom and
There
other
is,
things going
yeah.
on. It's not just all work.
Cool.
Hey, Mike, I asked a question because we weren't sure who exactly to contact, but I appreciate your phone call, or your letting me know what was going on. Most of this work would be done by DPW positions that are part of the union, and this is okay with the current union.
Correct, yeah.
You don't have to say what you said on the phone, but, you know, it's okay. Work they don't want to be doing? Counselor Bacon?
I was just wondering where it shows in your budget, these expenses.
So the transitional employment, there's an actual line for ROCA in, I think it's the highways and bridges budget. And landscaping, there is a landscaping services line in the parks, not landscaping services, but professional services
Oh, okay.
type budget line in the parks budget.
Thanks.
Counselor Sullivan?
In the budget, I mean, here we spent 220,000 with them. In the budget, it only calls for 50,000. Are we cutting back on how much we use them next year, or?
We are a little bit. The 220 was over 3 fiscal years.
I see, all right.
And then that also includes the landscaping, which is in another budget.
Yeah, I visited the ROCA office about 2 weeks ago. It is a great program, and I think it's a great way for the city to be taking care of a lot of the issues you addressed, while giving the youth a chance to also get some job experience and some job training at the same time. I don't know how much everybody else knows about it. I know the police department uses them quite a bit. I understand that correctly?
Yes,
So.
And if, the local office is, if you went out City Hall front door to High Street, it's 2 blocks to our left, where you can, they do take people off the street, but a lot of it is referrals from the police department and referrals from the court system. Any further discussion?
Just what, and you guys are happy with them too? Yes. John? All right, thank you. I mean, I just let everybody know that Danny Bresnan did text me and ask me, say that you gave him the information, he got the information today. He's happy, and he just wants it to be confirmed or complied with.
Joe?
On the record, thank you. Counselor Tomlin?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike, for coming down and explaining. I think this is great that Dan brought this up and forward to us, and I'm very familiar with ROCA. I think about a year and a half ago, they had their grand opening down here on High Street, and you know, it's about rebuilding lives. You know, it's youth that are in trouble, and it's about education too, and that's an important thing. Now, this funding here, the amounts, is that over a 3-year period, you said, approximately?
Correct, yeah.
And the purchasing, does that go through the purchasing department? They have purchase orders, or?
It does, yeah. It has the purchase orders are listed there, but the contract goes through the purchasing department and the solicitor's department.
Okay, and this is a big assist to your department with using them?
Yeah, I mean, they're taking care of things that we probably would not get to.
Because of your manpower is down over the years, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? On the motion,
Motion to make the order's been complied with?
all those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, Michael. And Michael, thank you. The mayor was here earlier. He will be there. I reminded everybody Saturday is the unveiling, and the mayor is going to bring a broomstick to get the bag off the sign for Mob Oil Way on Hamden Street, about 4:30 in the afternoon for anybody who's interested. The chair would suggest that we just skip over 9. Department head cannot be here. We can handle it or talk about it at the end of the items in respect to people who are in the audience. That first item wasn't supposed to take so long. I apologize to everybody, but item number 10 comes under my order. It's dispatchers from the police department, a transfer of $6,530, part-time clerks, $1,566, total of $8,096 into part-time dispatcher, $6,530, building and maintenance, $1,566. Off the table for discussion, made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sergeant Hart, we appreciate you coming down and your patience with us. If you could just walk us through this to request. I know we've heard the dispatcher part before, but just for the record, could we hear it one more time?
Sure. E911 dispatchers, we're moving to part-time dispatchers. We had a $20,000 budget for the part-time and expended all those funds. We have one part-time dispatcher right now who's going to be transitioning to full-time probably next week. We have one full-time retiring. So the funds will just be transferred to that part-time dispatcher for his salary. And for the building maintenance, that money was due to a contract and a raise, and that money was appropriated, however, never sent to the department, so we had to come up with the money from our budget this year to cover the cost of his raise.
Okay, that's one position,
Yes,
and contract being a union contract?
yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Make a motion, they approve the transfers.
Second.
Motion made second to approve the transfers, to adopt, recommend to the full city council next week. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Sorry. Forgive me. I think I'm going to be saying sorry to the next 3 people or 4 people coming in here. Item number 11.
Take it off the table.
Motion made second to receive, take off the table for discussion under my name and appropriation transfer from firefighters, $15,896 to fire chief, $15,896. Chief Pond, welcome, come on in. We have a request for a transfer, and Chief, I know you're gonna walk us through this, but this is to cover the, the request here says cover the CBA into the end of the fiscal year. That contract, or is, I'm not sure what CBA means.
For the 15,896?
Yes.
That is retroactive pay for my pay.
Thank you. That is actually in the letter, but it's not, gotcha.
That's
Could you-
over 3.5 years.
Okay. We, last year during the budget approval, I'll remind all city councilors that we did approve the contract appropriation for Chief Pond. The contract goes through, actually went back to 2015, but goes through 2019. What we approved was an appropriation for the current salary and recognizing the negotiation as allowed through the mayor and actually through the fire commission with the mayor for the contract itself.
Right.
So what you're telling us this evening is the 15,000 is, well, it's retroactive, but it's monies that, you know, are being added to the budget that are owed to yourself.
That's correct.
Okay, is there any discussion or any questions for the chief?
Yep.
We do have, I'm not sure if everybody doesn't always get copies of this, but we do have 2 communications attached to this order that go over the same things that we had last year during the budget process, but that go over the increases that date back to July of 2015. Chief, I did notice in the budget an amount of, I think it's, Peter, do you have it in front of you?
Yeah. For 120?
Yeah, is that the correct amount?
Actually, this retroactive pay is back because my
No,
benefits.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about next year's budget that's coming to us.
That number should be higher. I think at this point it's 125 or 126.
Because it doesn't jive with the number here.
Correct.
Could you bring that to the mayor's attention? We can't amend that.
I can bring it to his attention.
Yeah, because he may want to do it before July 1 with a supplemental, or he may want to address it after July 1. But I think,
I will.
well, if you just bring it to his attention, it'd be his choice. Any other, Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, and this, Chief knows that I don't like to see money coming out of firefighter staffing, and I have no problem paying the chief, but, so, and I noticed we've got 15,000 here, 10,000 below, and I'm assuming that last one, that's 87,000. So where are we getting that money, and why do we have that money left over in firefighters' budget?
That's a very good question. I have a great answer for you.
Okay.
And I know you're all going to love this
I hope it's
answer.
the same answer we've been given the last 5 times we've asked it. And it is a good question,
It's a
Councilor
great
Murphy. I'm
question.
not, you know.
We had a SAFER grant. It actually ran out in February. we were able to get an extension for any unspent funds within that grant that we could spend it down to zero balance. So through that process, we actually got a couple $100,000 extra in that line item by being able to spend that grant down to zero. There were excess funds in that grant. So it comes at a good time. We have a couple $100,000. There's a couple shortfalls in here, and I know the Board of Health is appreciative of this as well because they need the animal control officer. So that's why there are unspent funds within that account. We were also able to move $50,000 over for overtime to cover any shortfalls in that section. We had a couple people retire within that period of time, so we were able to spend some of the money for that. So it's worked out really well for us. We will not have that excess or surplus funds next year in that line item.
Okay, so in terms of number of firefighters currently on the department and active, what's the number?
We're currently down 8 firefighters. We're supposed to have 82, so we're down to 74. Obviously, the scale will change. We'll go from, less overtime to more overtime. We move that money around, and that's how we balance it out. I will let you know that I came from a Board of Fire Commissioners meeting straight to this meeting, and
we're more fun?
Excuse me?
We're more fun?
Oh, you guys are much more fun, trust me. And the mayor's already given his blessing, so we can hire the 8 firefighters, so we're working on that process now. And they should be putting that out at the next meeting to hire the 8 firefighters, so we can keep up to staffing.
And just one last question in terms of that, because I have the same concerns when it comes to the police department. As we know people are leaving, or pretty much know people are leaving, it seems like if I were running a business and I knew someone was leaving, I would try to bring someone in, so when that person is gone, I'm ready to have another person ready to do the job. What seems to happen is we don't get to that situation for a year, 2 years, and now we're down 8 firefighters. Right. And we end up, in order to have the staff for each of the pieces, we need to use overtime more than we would had we had the full staffing, which in the long run means we've got more people doing more work, probably eventually more tired. Also, we're spending more money per shift, and we don't have a full complement. And then when you have people that are out, we're back in that same situation where we also have to use more overtime. So, I don't know and I don't know the answer. I just keep asking the question, and I asked it to the chief of the police department. When you know people are out, how quickly are you authorized to start getting ready to get them back, get a replacement coming in or replacements coming in? So can you answer that question?
That's a complex question. We cannot hire any firefighters. Well, me personally, the Board of Fire Commissioners cannot hire without the mayor approving that. And a lot of times we hire in groups, like now we're looking to hire 8. So in 30 years from now, those 8 people will be exiting around the same time. But that's not always a given. We were down 3 or 4, so we were looking to hire, so we were trying to get approval from the mayor. And then the next thing you know, we had a couple firefighters. One went to get another job somewhere else. We had one retire right out of the blue. So you never really know. I wish I could have these numbers out for you. So it's not a consistent thing. So we're at the point now, we're at the budget season. We know that we know the city's having some difficult financial times, so are we going to be able to hire those 8 firefighters? So that's why this process takes so long. Not to mention, when you look in the amount of firefighters that they let us hire, we have the number of 82. If we had a higher number, we could kind of like start the process earlier, but we can only hire up to that amount. So we're down 8. We can't say we're going to hire 10 and have 2 hanging around in case we need them later on. We can't do it that way. So that's another problem with the process. But I would agree with you. It's hard to try and run a department when you get that short and you go back and forth. It's difficult. But I will say, there was a study, and it was Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and they talked about overtime and how, it's not really this evil thing. And in fact, they saw there was actually a savings of 16% to hire people in overtime as opposed to just hiring them as an employee and then paying all that other benefits and whatnot. It was actually cheaper to hire them as overtime instead of a full-time employee. So there was a savings to some extent.
But at a certain point, you're not going to get the same effectiveness, with all due respect.
Oh,
And I
this
know
is true.
firefighters and police officers are in a very difficult position, and obviously they are required to be trained in all the other aspects. Any human being putting in additional hours constantly is eventually going to run, the tank's going to run out, and it's going to be, I forgot to connect that hose or whatever the case might be. Hopefully that's not the case.
I would agree.
So, and I'm going way back to when I started writing letters back in 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago, when I was concerned about staffing. And I know we met at the Waterfront Tavern, and I was bringing this up, and I know we talked about a specific number of firefighters. So, and I also, Dale from your staff gave me 3 different weeks of staffing. And I know there were times there was only 1 or 2 pieces that had 4 people on it. So I think 4 of the 6 almost consistently had 3. And that was when I think you had just gotten the additional recruits from the grant.
Right.
So,
That's the reorg plan. That's the way it was set up.
No, yeah, I know, I understand that. But, I mean, again, now when you're 8 short, I got to think that the odds of having even 4 people on, and other than the, what do you call that special piece you got?
The quint?
The quint. Other than that, you probably are in almost all situations down to 3 people on a piece.
Oh, no, we continually stay at 20 regardless. So we always have 2 pieces with 4, and then the rest only have a minimum of 3. We never go less than 20.
So you are doing overtime then to get that.
That's where that all falls in. So if we have the proper staffing, we cut down on overtime. So let's just say if there's 26 firefighters on Group A, and we lose 8 firefighters, but 2 off that group, we're down to 24. So when we get below the 20 mark, which is 4, we have a 4 reserve. Once we get below that mark, then we hire to stay to 20. That's how the overtime comes in. Okay. And I am very proud of the reorg plan itself. I mean, you guys don't see me in here anymore, right? We established that we have a set amount of firefighters and a plan that actually works to give the proper fire protection. So that's my goal, and I feel like I've accomplished that.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on Terry's question and your answer, Chief, for how much was the original SAFER grant for?
1.26 million, I want to say, for 2 years, for 10 firefighters.
Okay, I know we talked about it, I just don't remember the numbers. And maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's my memory, but one other reason for surplus monies in this firefighters account, I believe went back to the beginning of the year when your business manager and the auditor and everybody was doing the recouping of monies that were owed. And
I don't recall that.
Don't recall that. I'm not the oldest person in this room, I know that, but I just remember at the beginning of the year, at the budget cycle hearings last year, Todd McGee, had asked Bellamy Smith, the auditor at the time, about, was the line item correct for the amount of firefighters, and there were additional monies in it, and he said no, but then came back and money started coming out. He never said it was because of the SAFER grant. He said he had put money in this line item to pay for what Dale was working on in June, which ended up, it actually came out of the budget in the next fiscal year. But not a big deal. I just, it's gonna come up next week, but it's okay.
Well, and then not to mention we have, we're short 8 firefighters, so you have that surplus.
It's a combination of
so
things. The answer is, and it's a good question by Councilor Murphy, but it's been a combination of things that put a surplus there. But we've taken quite a bit of dollars out of this line item. These aren't the first 2 transfers this year.
Right.
There's been others, you know, and I think we'll be visiting it again when we have our hearings in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks. All right, how we doing? Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chief, for coming down, and I understand, and Counselor Murphy makes some great points about the, you know, the overtime and the numbers of employees you have on staff, and now you're looking for 82, but you're not gonna have them right away, right? Or will you have them right away?
No, we will not have them right away.
So there'll be extra money in that account again this year,
Correct.
unless we cut something from that, the council.
I'm still waiting for the official numbers from the mayor to compare everything, so.
Okay, and we have, every 2 weeks, we have our meeting, we usually have a couple firefighters, a couple police officers that are injured on duty. Is that still a potential problem causing some overtime, or is that something that, you know, is a normal amount, say two to three people every pay period, or?
It's about a normal amount, and it does happen, occurs the same as the police. It's a consistent.
Does that make it give the mayor a chance to say, well, you got these injured, and some employees may be injured long-term and maybe causing you not to be able to hire people, or at all?
At this point, no. Actually, I've put a lot of procedures in place and a lot of process that we've streamlined that. So now they used to sit around forever, quite honestly. Now we've got a process in place so we can kind of get them through the system quickly. If they're going to be disabled, we don't prolong it. And that's really, a retirement board's been working with us on a lot of stuff.
And it's better than, because I know years past, sometimes somebody be 8 months, 10 months, 16 months, up to 2 years that were, you know, waiting for a decision on that, whether they retire them or disability or whatever. And you'd have to keep those employees on the books, right?
They'd be on the books, but one of the procedures that I've done now is if they're out for 60 days on injured on duty and their physician gives me a note saying they can come and work light duty, I bring them in and they would do administrative work around the fire station. So I've been doing that for 4 years, 5 years now. So they're not just, you know, sitting home, you know, watching TV. I have them actually doing work that's helping the department and helping the city. And in the long run, they learn a lot of, you know, fire prevention techniques and skills up there. So it helps the department overall.
Okay, and I remember one time, I think we had 88 firefighters was the number, and then that get cut down for a number of years, or?
It was supposed to be 88. I've never had 88
You never did?
firefighters.
Okay,
No.
for some reason the number stands out
Yes,
to me
but you're
that was supposed to
For
be.
your time.
That was way before my
For your
time.
time.
Probably when you were working, there was 80.
Yes.
But I recall that, so. And how do you feel the new, you know, your new design of the department is working out? I mean, it's really, you've cut down on overtime, right?
Because we have the proper amount of staffing to ensure that we don't need overtime. So it's really working out well. And as Councilor Murphy was saying, at least we have 2 apparatus consistently with 4 personnel on it, which takes the workload off of, you know, it cuts down on injuries.
On injury stuff,
and
right.
everything. So it really works out well. And I mean, initially, obviously, nobody wants change. I hear stuff from the firefighters, oh my God. But I feel that they've embraced this and it seems to be working well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just make one last comment?
Councilor Murphy, quick.
Just real quick, so I know the Quentin, there's the other one, the ladder truck on Northampton Street with the 4.
The ladder truck down at headquarters.
Okay.
So sometimes that individual can get moved around down there, but it keeps the same amount of personnel within that firehouse to respond to calls.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
A
on
motion
the floor
to
is-
approve the transfer?
Second.
Approve the transfer, recommend City Council adopt it next Tuesday. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved. One more, Chief, firefighters, item number 12, take off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? $10,000 to lieutenants, $10,000.
It's a common thing. We transfer money between line items to ensure there's proper amounts of funds within that line item to cover. So it's basically the end of
Is
the
it
year.
acting out of duty, or is it,
This is a lieutenant.
But why wasn't there enough money in the lieutenants for the whole year?
There were, we had a lawsuit back a while back in the beginning of the year, so that's been resolved, and there was a slight overlap within that period of time. So we're just moving funds over to cover that amount.
Okay, it's not unprecedented for someone that was promoted and then something happens and another person gets bumped in.
Exactly.
Carry the person, both persons until, are there retirements
correct.
coming? We've handled this before. I just want to make sure I get the answers for next week.
That's absolutely correct. So there was a slight overlap. We were waiting for a lieutenant to retire. He subsequently retired, and then that position was filled with that
And this will
overlap.
cover you through the end of the year for the people who were, the firefighters who were promoted.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Everybody understand what we're doing?
It is what it is.
Okay. Motion to adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Chief, you don't have to stay. We got some special guests here. I hope they still like us when we're done. The next item is also $87,000 is coming from firefighters. I think you've answered the question, why. Is that the end of the surplus in firefighters? Or are you gonna give some back for free cash next year? Or can you take more out of there?
I could have Dale do an audit and let you know. We're pretty close to the end in that line item as far as I know. So,
Well, you've got enough to cover the rest of the year. You're not gonna.
yes,
you know,
we're all set. Like I said, we transferred over
Yeah.
to cover some overtime. We paid out some retirements, buybacks, and this, I have no problem with this transfer whatsoever. I understand it's a needed service, and we have the funds. Why not pay it?
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate the work you do and all the men and women of the fire department. All set.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, and I'll see you in three weeks.
I think it's gonna be like I'll let Todd tell you. Be closer to the third week of June, I believe, from what I understand.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Chair will suggest we skip 14, just for a moment, go back to it, and just go to 15 with our guest here. All those
Motion
in
to take up
favor?
15.
Any opposed?
Aye.
This is an item from firefighters, $87,500, to animal control BOH, $87,500. Take it off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for your, I don't want to say patience, because I've said that before and I've gotten stares, but some item has to be last, and it's an important item. Although I think everything we've handled tonight was important. Our big problem was item number 1 took longer than we wanted it to, but here we are. Can we introduce, I know everybody, but can we introduce ourselves for the record?
I'm Sean Gonsalves, Director of the Board of Health.
Okay, Sean is our new director. Is it official, Sean?
It is.
Okay, congratulations and welcome to the first time in the hot seat, okay? As we all know, Brian has retired. Brian is no longer with us, and Sean is now, I've talked to you on the phone more than once, I appreciate your help. The auditor has said nothing but good things about how you're working with her and the budget stuff and everything like that. And
Eric Velez. Oh, jeez, so close. Eric Velez, Animal Inspector, Animal Control.
thank you, Eric. As always, you've been before us before, and we appreciate.
Yes, sir, thank you.
And this is about, I take it, the Thomas J. O'Connor facility. Wonderful program, in my opinion. And you are?
Pam Peebles, I'm the director of TJ O'Connor.
Pam Peebles, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, the request, I understand the request, but you want to walk us through it and just, you know, it's, I know what it is, but just for the record, we are on television, I think you all know that, but we're also being recorded. For the record, why we need to put this money in this line item.
So essentially, we have an annual contract with TJ O'Connor for a total amount of $173,478. That's paid in 3 installments of $57,826 over the course of a year. Our line item was halved during the last budget cycle, and so we made our first payment of $57,826 on time, and then up to that point, we have not been able to make the next payment that was due April 1st. In speaking with the auditor, we were authorized to make a partial payment of $29,600 to sort of fill the gap in, as there has not been an interruption in services. And then this request is to fund the contract fully and pay off the remaining balance.
If I remember correctly, and thank you, Sean, the last budget cycle, one of the reasons, or there were a number of reasons that were discussed about cutting it, and Councilor Bacon, I think you have something on your agenda coming up, or had something about the city still looking to see if they can replace the services that are done by TJ O'Connor
Well-
Westfield has done their own, but.
Well, there was a certain faction on the council that wanted to look at that, and that is what resulted in the cut to the contract. But subsequent to that, there's been no action on it.
Okay.
There are orders filed, but there has been no action on them in this year.
So, with no action, and we're not saying there will be action on that, and that means we still need the services that TJ O'Connor provides. I know Eric is much appreciative of what you do provide, but can you just in a little quick nutshell tell us all the good services you've been providing recently to the city of Holyoke?
And Mr. Chairman, can I just add before she goes into her summary? We've always taken a position in council that if we have contract obligations, that we should be paying them. And we've been paying all other contracts timely. And I just want to express my personal appreciation to TJO for continuing with their services, because we have been way behind on this contract. And I think they've continued to deliver, and they've come in and documented to us the services that they've been consistently delivering to the city, and I'm just appreciative of it. So, thank you.
Well said, and I echo your thoughts. Councilor Sullivan?
Yep, and I was one of the ones that initiated the cut, and it was because it was such a round, large number, $175,000, that's it, without any idea of how that number was reached. So we wanted to get a good look at it. We cut it in half. That gave us, we figured, 6 months to get an answer, which I think we did get a pretty good answer on that, and a great presentation from you several months back.
Thank you. I think TJO, as I'm sure you all know, is regional with Springfield, Chicopee, and Holyoke. And Holyoke and Chicopee as well, with Springfield being the lead city. Holyoke's been a very, very valued participant in this. We're really, really proud of what we can do for Holyoke as animal control. We take it very seriously and want to know if anybody has a single complaint. And in the absence of those complaints, we trust that things are going in the right direction. Eric has been a key component, I think, in keeping communications open and good. And we... quarterly, I send a report into Board of Health and Mayor and Clerk's office, thank you, through Irma. And the most recent report was for the first quarter of this calendar year. And in that period of time, annually we handle intake about 500 animals for Holyoke, I think it was 459, so 460 to 500 each year. And in the first quarter, we responded to 200 field calls, January through March 31st. So it's about between 800 and 1,000 field calls each year that we go on. Those, most of them are precipitated through through calls from the public. Frequently we will get calls from Mayor's office, or most commonly through Eric as a second to public calls. Our officers, we have a team of 5 officers and 1 field supervisor, and they're responsible for 24/7. But we are actually staffed within the center responding to calls, routine and emergency, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then at 10 p.m. we switch to a live answering service who is trained to triage the calls, and they know which calls that we respond to between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Those are typically every single call from a police or firefighter, and then the others are triaged based on the emergency status.
Thank you for your comments about Holyoke, because we know we're second fiddle to, not with TJ O'Connor, but in a lot of areas with Springfield, we fight with them. Occasionally we win a battle. Most of the time, we're gonna lose the battle. Chicopee, we're just different, okay? We're not like Chicopee, they're not like us. They're across the river, not saying they're bad neighbors, but we're just different. But Eric,
Yes, sir.
tell us about TJ O'Connor and how you work with him.
I need to back up. I work very frequently with them, oftentimes calling them 2-3 times a week. Today, I called them twice for certain cases that we had where we had to remove a number of animals and bring them back to the shelter. So I do keep constant communication with not only Pam but the officers individually to ensure that the animal control services that we are essentially paying for are provided to our city. And with education to our community, I think they do a very good job with certain animals are not dealt with, certain wildlife, certain such. They have other departments such as environmental police and such that cover those type of calls. However, TJ O'Connor has been a great help to the city of Holyoke since before I started in the city. Since its inception, the Thomas J. O'Connor has been worlds more than we can really expect.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, hi, I'll be very brief, and I apologize for keeping you guys waiting 2.5 hours. I too was one of the people that led the charge to cut this budget, and the reason for that is because I didn't have a good feel, I didn't have good sense. But since then, we brought you in, Pam, and I don't remember if it was this committee or the Public Service Committee, and you gave, both you and Eric, you guys gave excellent presentations, and so it changed my whole mindset. So I have no problem voting for this tonight. And once again, sorry for keeping a very long time.
It's a fascinating process. I actually appreciate listening in to all of this.
Come on. I don't buy that one.
It didn't feel that long.
Well, I was about to say, Pam, if there is a next time, hopefully there isn't, but if there is a next time, we'll let you guys go first. How's that?
Oh, that's a great deal.
Councilor Tallman.
I'll also be brief, maybe briefer than Jim. Thanks for the work you do. I appreciate it. And I did not cut the button, was in favor of cutting it. I know the important services that you provide. And I've been down there to the center. I was just down there last week, tried to get in, but you were closed. I think it was on a Wednesday. I think somebody was in the meeting.
Buzzer to the right of the front door.
Yeah.
It's a not very well hidden secret, so just use that if you're there.
Yeah. And it was on Wednesday, I think. I was over there. My wife had a class.
I'd also like to point out that just because I call them individually 3 or 4 times a week when I need them, doesn't necessarily say that others call them into the city. Have it be other departments, police and fire included, and the general public call them into the city.
Right.
I'm sure just as often as I.
Yeah, and like I said, I appreciate you came in. I think it was good that in a way we got a chance to look and have you come in, and I think you've been open over the years to us to see what you do, but coming in and giving you a report and the number of animals, you don't realize how much work you do in our community and how much you really are needed and valued in our community, so I appreciate the work you do.
Appreciate hearing that.
John, thank you. Your first turn in the hot seat is always a free pass, okay? Don't expect it next time. Come prepared. You weren't prepared this time. Come prepared to get some harder questions. But I think we've gone through this. Pam's been here before. Eric, we've talked about this, and I think the comments speak for themselves. The one last thing I want to say, though, is I know you don't do boa constrictors, right? Do we have any more boa constrictors?
We had 9 surrendered 3 weeks ago.
And Shannon, the reason I asked this is the last time, I don't know if you guys remember, the last time we did this, I work right across from you. If you look out your window, I'm in the courthouse on the 2nd floor. You can't see us, but I can look out the window and see everybody in the annex, what you're doing. One day, one of my coworkers said, "Joe, what's that moving in the window over there?" And I said, "I don't know, that's the Board of Health." That was back to your predecessor's days.
Mr. Tryon.
And yes, we're glad we have you, but we miss him a lot. And I looked and I said, "That's a snake." And sure enough, he had it in the glass right in the window getting sun. And it was like I said, okay, but these are confiscated on certain police department duties, and I think is where we find most of them, and we have to deal with them, right?
A little bit of everything.
Councilor Murphy?
Just, and Eric, probably
Yes, sir.
more to you. So, when I met with Brian and Sean way back in January, I meant to talk to you, because the Canadian geese situation, and I gather they're a protected species, is that correct?
Correct.
So, I know it's Springdale, and I see it just about when soccer season gets going, and just before the spring season gets going, they basically dominate the fields. So, is there anything that we can do to make it less attractive for them to come onto the playing fields? There is Canadian geese residue that kids shouldn't have to be running around in.
There is. Do you want to take this? There have been situations where it's kind of like a cap gun that makes a very loud sound. Essentially, you go to the same place where these geese are gathering twice a week. Bang, the geese spread. Come back a couple days later when the geese are there. Bang, the geese spread. Over time, and this doesn't take too long. I've known other officers who actually have done this. This doesn't take too long. Over time, the geese learn that there's going to be a loud sound in this area, wherever this area is, have it be by the river, have it be by or a pond or a golf course, and they will disperse. Again, I have firsthand information from another officer of mine here in the state that has this ability and did do this in her area and actually helped.
Do you have that?
I do not.
Noisemaker?
I do not, but maybe I can talk to this guy about maybe getting something like that. But yes, that general loudness will make them disperse, and then over time they learn that, maybe we don't want to be here, and they go somewhere else.
So if you do get one, I'd like to let me know, because I would like to, as soon as I go by there, and there are times, literally, 50, 60 geese, and they are all over every playing field.
It's a little bit of a process, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it is doable.
But if we can get them to have the habit of not going there, that would be a real good solution. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, I got a flood in my backyard, and we had three Canadian geese land. Okay, so I didn't call you, Eric, because it's private property, but next time I understand now what to do. Thank you, Sean. Now, let's get back to the agenda. Anything else? On the motion.
Make a motion to approve the transfer.
Motion made second to approve the transfer, recommended to full city council next week. You do not have to be present, but we appreciate this evening and we appreciate the presentation. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved.
And we appreciate the council. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. And Pam, thank you very much.
Thanks for your patience.
Going backwards real quick, we skipped item 14 off the table for discussion. The assessor and tax collector informed the council of how how many tax exempt properties exist within the city. Please submit the report. Ryan, if you're listening, I think this has been submitted. We're going to make a motion. This has been complied with.
Second.
Motion made second that this has been complied with. I believe it's sitting in the back office. If I'm wrong, Ryan, come out and tell me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. And Jesus could not be here this evening, going back in time. Item number 9, transfer introduced under my name from in-state travel veteran services, $1,187.20 to out-of-state travel, $1,219.33. Oh, I'm sorry. I knew there was something wrong here. Also, $32.13 from education, training, and veteran services.
Make a motion to approve it.
Total is to transfer this monies from in-state to out-of-state. Out-of-state is controlled by the mayor. The mayor has to sign off on any out-of-state travel. However, he does look for monies when the department head asks for it. Jesus could not be here tonight because he is on duty attending, I forget, but did everybody get a copy of the email?
Yes.
Okay, so he's attending somewhere that prevents him from being here. It's something to do with FEMA, I think.
Yeah.
And this is for him to go to a conference a training conference which would allow him to do certain work that he is not certified to do now. Does anybody need more explanation? No. Okay, we do have the email. Motion is to receive, adopt, and approve the transfer pending the approval by the mayor for the travel.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. The budget came in. Todd's got a couple of tentative dates for budget hearings. I did pencil in, I don't know what's coming in next week. We know we can get hammered this time of year, but we may need one more meeting, possibly two. Right now, I penciled in, depending on what the president does with the budget, the 17th, to hopefully wrap up everything. The only reason we can still, if needed, we can meet next week to take up a couple items, but the 17th would be the next scheduled meeting at the moment.
17th of
June. And the reason I did the 17th is it's right before our final meeting of June, so that we can wrap up anything that needs to be done. I've asked Tanya to make sure everything is in request or in by the first meeting in June, so we don't have to do things on the 4th and the 18th.
That'll be a Monday, right, before our
That's a
last
Monday.
meeting? Okay.
The budget hearings right now, I don't wanna, Todd will announce this next week, but right now he's penciled in the 13th and 14th to do the hearings and then talk about what day to use for a final meeting. But that's the president's call. So we're just juggling schedules as we always do in June, finishing a fiscal year and getting ready to start a fiscal year. So that just the update.
Sounds good.
On a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Any opposed? So moved. We stand adjourned.